Welcome to the Pitchwerks podcast. I'm Scot McTaggart. Over the last 20 years, I've been a sales rep, a marketer, a manager, an executive, a consultant, and an advisor. This show is designed to give you access to my list of contacts so that you can learn more about how to present your ideas at work and succeed in your career.
Startups and salespeople, marketers and managers from the Epicast Network in Pittsburgh. It's the Pitchwerks podcast.
And we recently hired a process engineer and a supercritical fluid technology consultant.
Okay, now you're just showing off. You love saying supercritical fluid technology. And I can't blame you. I like it too.
Ask me to explain it. I can
Go.
I can give you the.
You don't need to wait for an invitation. Go.
I can't.
Oh.
I can give you. I can give you the layman's, explanation, but I got to bring in.
I'm afraid that's going to have to suffice at this point.
I got to bring in Dr. Al-Khalidi to give you the 5-hour lecture.
Now we have to at least try. Hey, everybody, it's Scott. It's Wednesday. Welcome back to your Pitchwerks podcast, and let's talk a little bit about science I don't understand. No, don't worry. I promise. I'm going to tie it into something. I'm going to tie it into a bunch of things that are actually completely applicable to your personal struggle. We're talking to Mendel Bassman this week from Smart Tire Recycling, and when you hear what he's working on, you're gonna be just a little bit happier in your day. You parents are going to be a little bit happier about the fact that your kids have a better chance with everything else that is going on out there in the environment. But, and I say this every week, I got to ask you for stuff. First thing I'm going to ask you for is, if you are just hearing this show for the first time, can you please hit the subscribe button in your podcast app? It doesn't matter to me which one it is, but if you would subscribe, here's what I will do for you. I will make sure that this program ends up in your phone a little bit earlier than everybody else gets it every single Wednesday. And we're talking sales, marketing, and startups. That's what the Pitchwerks is all about. Let's talk to Mendel. Let's find out about Smart Tire Recycling. He's coming off a pretty nice little win on a pitch competition, but his tech is amazing too. All right, just recovered from his sick bed. I've got Mendel Bassman here with me. Mendel, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are
I'm
you,
so
Scott?
glad you're doing well. You were down for a minute. You were down for what, like almost a week?
Well, down with the flu, but as an entrepreneur, there's lots of ups and lots of downs. So,
we're the super pinky ball of humanity, right? You have to bounce back.
It almost forces you to take a break, which is so important.
It's true.
And everyone, it's the flu season, but there's also taking those days that you wouldn't. You don't take vacations,
nobody
voluntarily.
Right. Like there's nobody cutting you a check for your paid vacation when you're your own boss.
Exactly.
So Smart Tire Recycling. You had me at the name, okay? Because this is obviously a problem that everybody has, right? We use these tires. They're, I will say, adorning the ravines and sides of roads all over the U.S., right? Here in Pittsburgh, we have that mountainous geography, so sometimes people just sort of wing it over a guardrail, and now there's tires everywhere. It is, one of the hugest industries out there selling these tires, but we've got to do something about it. And Smart Tire Recycling isn't just sort of like a concept. Like you've got a complete ecosystem in mind in terms of sort of what you're going to do here. And let me just sort of tee you up even a little bit better. And you just recently won a pitch competition explaining how that all works. So can you do me a favor and just start everybody in the audience off with, what are you aiming to do with Smart Tire Recycling?
Well, we're looking to solve a problem that hasn't yet been solved. Mm-hmm. Fortunately, society has come a long way environmentally, being conscious of problems and searching for solutions. And, 20 years ago, the tire problem was worse than it is now, but it hasn't moved much in 20 years.
So tell me about that. What is the current state? Like you said to me, we did, a lunch where we were kind of talking to each other about, putting the show together and that sort of a thing. And you said about there's, and I love this line because, it had that tongue-in-cheek aspect of it, but it's also true. It's like, how many soccer fields do we need or something like that?
The majority of tires, close to 60% of tires are burned as an equivalent to coal. And they're used in cement kilns and other various furnaces. And, it's somewhat better than placing or stockpiling the tires in the ground. They're being used, but that application of tires is clearly not a good solution, being that the emissions that those tires create in those furnaces and kilns are, according to some studies, even worse than coal.
Wow. And that's what you're leading me right into what I was going to ask, which is, what's in there? Like, what are we putting into the air when a tire gets burned?
Right. Tires burn, and the heat is great, even greater than coal, so it's attractive for the cement manufacturers.
Right.
But in terms of the environment, it's a bad solution. The problem itself is a solution.
Right.
The current solution is a problem in itself.
No, it's a tricky thought process because you're sitting there and it's like, well, we did move a little bit, right? But let's not break our arms patting ourselves on the back. Now, the current state is, okay, industry found a way to use, you said 40%?
60%.
They're using 60%.
Correct.
Okay.
60% for the cement applications. Then there's an additional, like going back to your soccer fields, there's an additional about 20-30% used in other applications.
Right. That's not my soccer field thing. That's your soccer
that's
field.
My
I don't want to
field.
take credit for that joke. That's a good one.
The tire mulch and other various, I call them end-of-life solutions.
Right.
Where you take the tire and you use it for something, and that's the end of it.
Yeah.
So those are limited markets. They're using tires now actually in asphalt. Problem
sense.
being, besides they haven't yet figured out the science, but it's more expensive than actual asphalt, so it's not a real solution.
Right. It's ethanol.
But you're not.
We congratulate ourselves for it, but when you really do the math, it didn't save anything.
Right. But and this is just in the United States. Other countries, most of the tires are still stockpiled in the ground.
Wow.
So in the United States and developed countries, there have been some solutions, but the solutions themselves carry significant problems. And moreover, you're not fully extracting the valuable commodities within the tires, and it's a end-of-life application.
You are a very good setup, man. Listen to you. The valuable commodities within the tires is actually where we have to go next, right? So, so here you come with a different mindset. Everybody else is talking about incremental sort of glacial change. Okay, well, we came up with a new way to make a road, which includes shredded tires as being part of the mix, right? Because these roads are going to be there forever and ever, and it's better than leaving them in the ground. But you are, and I'm going to lean on your explanation to me, because obviously this whole material science thing, this is not where I live, but you told me you can unbake the tire, which kudos to whoever wrote that line. That's fantastic. It helps really to sell the whole concept in a simple, sort of punchy way. And then extract carbon black. Yes? Now, until I sat down with you, I had no idea what carbon black is. And I'm going to leave it to you to explain it to everybody else too.
Well, it's actually quite interesting. I had learned that the United States won World War II. Someone might correct me on the details here, by it being the first to invent synthetic rubber, because many of the natural rubber trees were burned down, and the various, the United States and was trying to burn other rubber trees, and the Germans were trying to burn our rubber trees, and there was rubber tree, because you need rubber to win the war,
right?
So the United States actually was the first to invent synthetic rubber. And that was key in helping them win this battle.
We have to toss that question over the fence to our friend Professor Buzzkill, who does the history show on this network.
Okay.
I will make sure he gets that question, because
okay, so
I do want to know the answer.
I might have gotten some of the details off, but there's...
Oh, no, he'll get it for you.
So one of the key ingredients in synthetic rubber is carbon black. And there's various advantages to carbon black, but carbon black is a byproduct of petroleum.
Okay.
When you combust petroleum, the steam creates what we refer to as carbon black, and it's a key ingredient in synthetic rubber. majority of synthetic rubber, 80% is used in the tire manufacturing.
I have to believe there's just so much of it sold. I mean, I'm going to buy some in a week or so. I mean, it's like I'm nobody, right? But when you think about what does it take to equip a car, it's a significant amount. And once you start talking about off-road tires and bike tires, and there's a lot that goes into this. So
and rubber products, and then there are other applications as well for, conveyor belts and paint. To make the color black, the carbon black is a very potent black, better than any black they were able to find. So it's used as the color black as well.
So now you've got a building block for, I'm counting just very quickly there, 4 or 5 different industries. So before we go too far down the road, we have to make sure that your partners also get credit here, right? Because you're not doing all of this on your own.
Correct.
If you wouldn't mind just making sure that they get a quick shout out, just because I'm really very interested in what we're talking about here. But I mean, you can't do something this big and do it alone. Well, I mean, maybe somebody can, but
I take zero credit for any of the scientific and technical parts of this company, which are key. My co-founder, Dr. Al-Khalidi, is a world-renowned expert in supercritical fluid technology.
Oh, that just sounds cool.
That sounds awesome,
doesn't it?
He actually, he's a Muslim, and I was trained as a rabbi, and we together.
You're one priest away from a joke, man. It might even be a good one.
I like to say that we haven't yet solved peace in the Middle East, but we're in the process of solving another major global problem.
It legitimately is. I mean, you and I are smiling and having a good time about it, but honestly, half the reason I wanted to pull you into this room is the fact that I need people to know what you're working on because it's good for everybody. You know what I mean? And take that as the compliment it is intended to be. This is a huge undertaking.
Dr. La Cremallera as well has been part of our team for the last 2 years. She's also an expert in tire manufacturing.
Oh, wow.
And she also got an MBA from MIT, so she's been very influential in helping us focus on profitability and business plans and financing.
It's like you're reading my mind right now, because honestly, the profitability of this whole thing is exactly where I was going next, right? Because it's easy for me to say that you're solving big societal problems, right? But that's not a guarantee of success. If doing things that were good for the world in and of itself was enough, rabbis and and clergy people that are helping people through the toughest times of their lives would be millionaires, right?
Exactly.
So doing good on its own, you have to have a business model that motivates people to get off the couch, to get involved, to invest in your company, to buy your product, to enable your business, right? And that is honestly, again, that's where my enthusiasm comes from, is the fact that it's not just a huge problem that you're tackling. And I wish you all the best, right? But it's also because I'm such a big believer in a balanced approach to all these business processes. If you want to do good, then make it so that investors benefit. And I hate the fact that, we have to think that way. But if you want to scale, those are the table stakes for that particular game.
100%. I mean, my background in terms of management and leadership positions, majority of what was in the various environmental industries, namely my father's scrap metal business.
Very nice.
And I got very excited and passionate about the environment and the potential involved. But I was looking for an area that had room for innovation, a problem that hasn't yet been solved, and that had room for profitability, which would be able to sustain the technology.
You also very plainly passed the McTaggart dirty end of the pool test, which is like when you're working on something that everybody else says is too hard, right? They're going to get sweaty. They don't do that, right? And that's where the money gets made. If you can find a way to sort of do the thing that nobody else wants to do, it's much better than getting in line for the glamorous business that only pays a 5% margin, right? You picked a hard one. You picked a thing that everybody else said, oh man, I don't know anything about tires or carbon black or steam or unbaking or anything like that. I'm going to make something simple. You won this pitch competition, and And I have to believe it kind of opened some people's eyes, right? I don't think that they were necessarily ready to hear what you were saying. Tell me a little bit about what the prep looked like for the smart tire recycling slide deck. Like, what do you put in there?
Well, I can talk and talk and talk. And unfortunately, I often talk too much.
You're on a talk show, man. Go nuts, man.
The challenge with the TiE contest was to put all that information, my 10-minute spiel, into 3 minutes.
Oh boy.
And
I don't like this either.
And there's kind of like, what do they want to hear, and what should I leave out?
And TiE, for the people that are listening, they explain who was in the room.
So it was the panel of judges were local entrepreneurs, investors, business experts that were judging it, and there was anyone that wants to hear about the latest and newest ideas.
So publicly open, even.
It was publicly open. Yeah, it was in the University of Pittsburgh, one of the ballrooms there. And
no pressure.
So I probably practiced the speech, before my wife and child and anyone that would listen to it, probably close to 100 times.
Very nice.
And I wasn't, when we got there, the judges went around and they had told me that, basically Mendel, you didn't say this and you didn't say that and you should have said this. And I thought it was over.
Right.
But I guess those that get the feedback are the ones that they want to help,
right,
do it better next time. But what I was told that, with a startup, it's an idea, and maybe even we've developed our idea on a lab scale, improved various parts of our concept, and we're in the process of building a demonstration system to have a full proof of concept. So it's early stage, but we've come some way. Basically, what they want to hear is about the team.
Right.
That's the most important thing.
That's what I invest in. People.
Because the people, exactly.
Yeah.
And we have a team of expert scientists and leadership. We brought on board Liberty Tire out of Pittsburgh is the largest collector of tires in North America. They do about 30% of the volume in North America.
Wow.
And we had our idea to unbake the tire, and the byproducts are carbon black and oil, and it was exciting and so on. And at the time we had our lab out of Harmer and U Park, and we called them up. I spoke with someone on their corporate team after, 3 months. We got in the door and we had a conversation, and they're like, Mendel, we hear about a lot of ideas. Ideas are nice, but, translating ideas in the real world, there's a long path.
Significant hurdles, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what they signed up for. Yeah.
Exactly. So they had actually hired someone by the name of Raymond Reek, who's an industry expert. He commercialized his own technology in this kind of a cousin technology, and he's been a consultant for all the big players in the industry. And he's like, Mendel, call Raymond Reek and, pass it by him and see what he thinks. And if he likes it, then you'll get our attention. So we had a conversation with Raymond Reek. He's out of Missouri. And he's like, Mendel, he kind of said, similar tone. He's like, sounds interesting. Call me back in 12 months and let me know where you guys are. So 12 months later, to the day, I called back Raymond Reek. And I said, here I am. Here's what we've done. Here's where we've proven our concept to this level, that level. We have this patent, that patent, et cetera, et cetera. And he's like, wow, Mendel, of the couple dozen companies that I've spoken to through Liberty Tire, there was like only 2 or 3 that called me back. And he's like, what you have is going to significantly solve serious key issues in the industry of the companies that are trying to figure out this technology. And I want to, and we brought him on board as a consultant, as an exclusive license with him. And he's been holding our hand through this rigorous process of creating technology.
That's one of those ones where I'd hang up the phone and I'd be so excited, right? Like you just feel it in your chest. Like this just validated what I've been working on. All right. So I want to go back though to this TiE thing, because, you said you practiced it like 100 times, and you said, my wife and child were subjected to me doing this. Tell me about the first time though. You were like, honey, I need you to listen to me do this. How did she react?
So, she's been an awesome fan in my startup, entrepreneurial ventures. And Everyone's like, is your wife into this thing? You
Right,
know?
yeah.
And I'm like, yes, she's my biggest fan. And I couldn't do it without her. But she's like, Mendel, you weren't really doing that well. And you were nervous. And I didn't think you were. I was trying to put on a smiley face.
But she knows you.
But
right. And that's actually, you got to take that into consideration too, right? Like you have one piece of your eyebrow out of place and she knows that something's wrong, right? The rest of the room is kind of ignorant because they've never seen you before. And that's really nice. Honestly.
I mean, there's a certain magic that happens when you're in an audience.
Yes.
And, I was like, before the contest, I was at time 95 after I called 20 friends practicing before each one. And I walked out in the middle of, we were like the ninth, S is like at the end of the list of the 10 finalists. And I was in the bathroom practicing it, the 99th and the 100th time. And I was like, forget it. There's a point where you give up and then that's when the magic happens. It's like when you're planting a seed in the ground, in order for the seed to grow, it has to rot. And once it rots and there's that humility, that's when you can blossom.
Look at you, man. That was a very, very good metaphor. Now,
that's not
you still haven't answered my question about how did she react the first time, right? Because it feels silly.
She's like, you got a long way to go, Mendel. She was honest. She says things the way they are. She's like, Mendel, it was okay, but you got to practice it another 100 times.
Good for her. Did you feel silly asking her to listen?
A little bit, I was practicing it in my head, but I knew you need a real audience to practice in order to get it right. You can do it 100 times in your head. You can't compare to doing it before another person. And
I'll be very blunt with you. What I'm tackling right now is the fact that there are people who are afraid to ask their spouse. 9 years, 9 months, doesn't matter. This is the person that you've selected above all others, and you don't want to look foolish in front of them, right? But there's the other side too, which is, you're saying she's been my biggest cheerleader. She's my fan. She wants me to succeed. Right. And you have to make your peace with this, that the people in your house are going to be aware of it. They're going to hear everything that you say. I remember the first time that we were doing prep for this show and I was doing recordings. I was doing prep, the show wasn't even a real thing yet. And I'm sitting there talking into my laptop. And I was cringy a little bit because I'm looking at my wife going please don't judge me for this. You
want to look good in front of your spouse,
Absolutely.
And the first 50 times, it's going to be horrible.
It was horrible too. Let's hope those never, ever see the light of day. Those first recordings. I mean, Buzzy was here for some of the ones that happened after that. And those weren't so great either.
I saved my pitch decks from 2.5 years ago. I mean, it's almost embarrassing.
It is,
and hopefully in a year or two, I'm going to look back at what I have now and always want to continue to grow.
So what's next for you guys? What's the next horizon that you're trying to reach?
So we're actually at an exciting transition point from, I'd call it on a certain stage, we're kind of going from the lab to a miniature commercial system.
Nice.
Our lab system incorporated numerous aspects of our technology, but in order to have our full proof of concept, we need to build what we're referring to as our demonstration system.
Okay.
We built our lab scale system about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, and we had samples and it was encouraging. But since then, we've hired an engineering firm to work on our technology, and we recently purchased that system that was built, the heart of our system.
Nice.
And we have a facility out of Wilkinsburg. We're going to be assembling it over the next 3-4 months. And we recently hired a process engineer and a supercritical fluid technology consultant.
Okay, now you're just showing off. You love saying supercritical fluid technology. And I can't blame you. I like it too.
Ask me to explain it. I can give you the...
You don't need to wait for an invitation. Go!
I can't.
Oh.
I can give you I can give you the layman's explanation, but I got to bring in...
I'm afraid that's going to have to suffice at this point.
I got to bring in Dr. Al-Khalidi to give you the 5-hour lecture.
Now we have to at least try.
Well, here's the 30-second... explanation. So generally, solids, liquids, and gases don't combine.
Oh, okay.
I hope my father-in-law chemist is not listening to this. But the
Sir, if you could, just tune out for like 1 second. There'll probably be a button on your podcast app that's got like a 30 and like an arrow that kind of points to the right. Just use that for me. Ready? You got 30 seconds. Go.
Yeah, please. I mean, he built rockets to go to Mars with various projects. So
that's awesome.
This is for. I'm talking to Scott now.
Yeah, please do.
Between the two of us.
Yeah.
So gases, liquids, and solids don't combine, and when you create a certain level, when you reach a certain level of temperature and pressure, and you extract the oxygen from the container, you're able to create a breakdown and a combination, and those elements are able to come together, and you're able to unbake tires.
That's so cool.
That process.
And the fact that you're able to talk about it, out in public says that this is not something that, like, this process existed already. It's just maybe somebody didn't use it for tires.
Exactly. I mean, they use this process to decaffeinate coffee on a very simple level, and it's used in many applications. We kind of take pyrolysis and put it on steroids and add various additional purification technologies. And going back to what we spoke about earlier, regarding finding a field that has room for innovation. So, I left the scrap metal field. My father was held up at gunpoint 3 times. Yeah. It's a cash business. So I kind of felt that I didn't really want to go there. He was like the rabbi in the junkyard. But
was it really?
That's what they all called him, with the long white beard. He used to give soup to the homeless, and he got all his anyone that came by, he matched any charity they gave. He kind of forced customers to give charity, even a penny, these homeless people, to teach them about giving. And there was a whole religious thing happening over there. So I first explored cooking oil recycling. And there was more room for innovation there than in the scrap metal business, but they kind of had that figured out. But that's how I met Dr. Al-Khalidi, because he invented a process to extract the carbon black and cleanse it within the oil, the oil recycling business. And we're applying that technology to tires. When they build a tire, you don't want it to be unbakeable. You don't want the tire to be able to be unbaked.
Right.
That's
not the intent. Yeah, exactly. It's kind of the opposite of the intent.
And the carbon black actually gives the tire strength, and so what we're doing goes against the grain of what the way the tire is made. So you need the supercritical fluid technology and the water oxidation that takes place to create a clean, zero emission process to break down the tire.
That is such a cool mission. So the next move, you said it's a demonstration lab. Who are we demonstrating to?
So we've already been contacted by potential strategic partners interested in our technology.
Interested in snapping you up. Anyway,
the
jig is up, I'm afraid. And if I'm not supposed to say that, I apologize. Let's just point out the fact that you didn't tell me in advance.
There's the companies that are looking to invest, $1 billion over the next 5 years in these types of technologies. We envision that all the major tire manufacturers over the next 10 years are going to buy out various technologies in this industry that we're involved in.
Yeah.
And
why let it get that far away if it came from you in the first place? Right? There's this opportunity to optimize the whole thing. So we make the tires a different way so that we can also profit on their recycling.
Correct. And there's that responsibility aspect. There are certain countries that are actually forcing tire manufacturers to take responsibility for the end products. It hasn't yet come to North America, but coming to neighborhoods near you, maybe after Trump's out of office.
I wouldn't hold my breath until at least 2020.
But there's a lot of strategic partners that we're having conversations with, and investors that are already interested in our technology once the full demonstration system is built. So we envision the valuation of our company going up significantly from where we are now to where we'll be in 6 months.
So what do you need? What is it that you're looking for from here? Or do you just need to be heads down for a little bit and just do your work?
I mean, I talk with mentors, and they're like, Mendel, for the next 6 months, no one's going to see you. You're in the laboratory. Every dollar you spend, ask yourself 3 times, is this going to give me a demonstration system? Right. Don't spend money going to various events. Don't start dancing around with
after hours networking.
Entrepreneurs in California trying to, you get your demonstration system put together, which there are still opportunities for investors.
You got months for that to be built. So yeah, that's enough on its own. Sorry to interrupt you, but that's a big ask.
Right. So we're raising capital to complete the demonstration system. We've raised significant capital to build our lab scale system. So there are opportunities now for investors, and basically to get this demonstration system fully optimized. And at that point, there's a lot of people that are knocking at our door.
I'll be glad to say that I knew you when, man. Mendel Bassman, thanks for coming into the Epicast studios.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. All right, that is the end of this week's program. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Mendel Bassman. Thanks to Smart Tire Recycling, and not just for coming into the show, but for what you're working on. It is appreciated. A grateful nation thanks you for your service. Don't forget, if this is the first time you're listening to the show, hit subscribe, and we will be in your inbox just a little bit earlier than it would be if you had to, go find it manually on the website. Pitchwerks.com, or, wait to see one of our social media updates. Pitchwerks, Pitchwerks. Reach out to us anyway. We always enjoy interacting with all of you. If you're done listening to me give you a hard time about things which you've probably already done because you're so nice, then let me just tell you that there will be another show ready for you next Wednesday. Sales, marketing, and startups. It's the Pitchwerks podcast. We'll catch you then.
The Pitchwerks podcast comes to you from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, a production of the Epicast Network and McTaggart, LLC. Engineering and production by Buzzy Torek and Nick Miller. For more information, show feedback, and ad sales, visit pitchwerks.com, pitchwerks.com. On social media, find and follow the show on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram using that same brand name, pitchwerks.